The standards of what makes someone good or bad are created by society. When we define someone as bad, it implies that the person will forever be that way or is incapable of doing good. But people can and do change, and no matter how bad we think a person is, they're capable of having some good in them. Here's a look at some amazingly good acts performed by bad people. Number 1. Joshua Milton Blahyi, Liberia. Blahyi, better known by his nom de guerre, General Butt Naked, is a former commander of forces under the wider control of Liberian warlord Roosevelt Johnson. He was once considered to be one of the evilest men on earth. He killed close to 20,000 people, took part in human sacrifices, and engaged in cannibalism. But after killing a little girl, he claims to have seen a man with a bright aura who told him to repent or die. He then gave up his murderous acts and transformed into a God-fearing man. Today, Blahyi travels all over the African continent, asking forgiveness and helping others like him get out of the mindless violence that exists there. Number 2. Fidel Castro, Cuba. The late Fidel Castro is one of the most notoriously divisive characters the world has ever known. For some, he was a guardian, whereas for others, he was a vile dictator. Castro ruled over Cuba with an iron fist, suppressing freedom of expression and even installing the death penalty based more on moral convictions rather than legal guidelines. However, he was also a very progressive leader who made exceptional changes to healthcare and housing in the country. Every citizen had free healthcare under his rule. He also ensured that the future generations of Cubans were better educated and had more opportunities to succeed in their lives. Number 3. Adolf Hitler, Germany. Perhaps the most well-known genocidal dictator in recent human history, Hitler's deeds shocked the world and even brought about the World War. While we all know of Hitler's evil deeds, he also passed several laws to ensure that animals weren't harmed unnecessarily. In fact, the legislation he put in place for animal welfare has been doing well all these years. For a man who disregarded human life, he sure cared a lot about defenseless animals. Number 4. Jim Warren Jones, American religious leader. Jim Jones was an American cult leader who influenced all 900 of his followers to commit suicide. However, before his end as a mass murderer, he was a very different man. His father was a member of the KKK, and despite growing under such an offensive system, he sympathized with the African American community. He even left his job as a pastor in a Methodist church because African Americans weren't allowed. When he was appointed the director of Human Rights Commission in Indianapolis, he tried to change the perception people had toward the community people by pushing integration in hospitals, churches, police stations, and restaurants. Number 5. Saddam Hussein, Iraq. Saddam had committed several inhumane acts, from gassing Kurds to installing a fierce death penalty. However, apart from his deeds, he also improved the life of Iraqi citizens in many other ways. He improved the lives of women in Iraq, made education compulsory, especially for girls. He also helped in building infrastructure and essentially modernizing the country. Number 6. Theodore Robert Bundy, American serial killer. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer, kidnapper, rapist, burglar, and necrophile who assaulted and murdered numerous young women and girls during the 1970s and possibly earlier. However, before he became so infamous, he worked at a suicide hotline where he genuinely talked people out of killing themselves. After his arrest, he even helped police catch the Green River Killer. Number 7. Muammar Gaddafi, Libya. Gaddafi, commonly known as Colonel Gaddafi, was a Libyan revolutionary, politician, and political theorist. Gaddafi made having a home a basic right for all Libyan citizens and believed in providing free education and encouraged people to choose the schooling they wanted. He made medical care free for most of the Libyan citizens and even provided free electricity to the masses. These are only some of the many good deeds he did for his countrymen. Number 8. Genghis Khan, Khagan of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan killed nearly 40 million people and defiled hundreds of thousands of women. But there was this great duality to his personality. He believed in letting his people choose their own religion. He also wanted to raise the levels of the culture, education, and law in his nation. Surprisingly, he was also seen as a generous leader, as he always used to share his wealth. Number 9. Napoleon Bonaparte, French statesman. For Napoleon, other people were mere instruments to be used by him to achieve his goals. But at the same time, he established the Napoleonic Code, which eliminated several damaging feudal laws. Through it, he gave more religious freedom to his people. He separated church and state and gave people the right to choose their occupation. The code wasn't perfect by any means, but it did bring his nation into a more rational and different world.